Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. Here, we're going to talk about a person frequently depicted in modern Chinese historical dramas, the Qianlong emperors, Empress Xiaoxian, Fucha clan, his wife and the older sister of Fucha Fuheng, a high-ranking minister. In modern Chinese film and TV series, the image of Empress Fucha varies, sometimes gentle and kind, sometimes somewhat manipulative. So, what was she really like in history? How was her relationship with Qianlong? Let's take a close look at her life, from her youth and marriage into the imperial palace, to the series of misfortunes she faced, and ultimately her death and Qianlong's deep mourning. According to historical records, Fucha was born in 1712, the 51st year of Kangshi's reign, into a Manchu family under the plain yellow banner. Her father, Fucha Lorongbo, was a commander of Chahar, a high-ranking military official. Analogous to a modern commander of a military region, a man of power and prestige, with a comfortable lifestyle. Fucha's childhood was sheltered and happy, with plenty of food, clothing, and happiness. She was cared for by servants and lived a comfortable and sheltered life. But fate is often unpredictable. In 1723, the first year of Yongling's reign, when Fucha was just 12 years old, her father suddenly passed away. This was a heavy blow for a young girl, and a shadow fell over her previously sheltered life. Fortunately, Fucha had two older brothers, the second brother Maki and the third brother Mawu, who were close to their father and extremely affectionate toward their little sister. Maki and Mawu held significant positions at court, especially during Yongling's reign, and were trusted by the emperor. In the 61st year of Kangxi, just after Yongling came to power, Maki was appointed Grand Counselor, in charge of state affairs. Mawu was made Commandant of the Imperial Guards, responsible for palace safety. During this sensitive transfer of power, for Yongling to entrust these important posts to members of the Fucha family speaks volumes about his confidence in their loyalty. Mawu, in particular, was exceptionally close to Yongling. The emperor once said openly, "When I was a child, Mawu held me in his arms and cared for me attentively," a testament to their deep bond. Such a close ruler-courtier relationship was rare at the time, reflecting the Fucha family's immense weight in Yongling's heart. In the fourth year of Yongling's reign, Mawu fell ill, and the Yongling emperor even sent his fourth son, Hongli, the future Qianlong, to visit him. After Mawu's death, Hongli personally went to pay his respects. Looking back through the veritable records of Emperor Shizong of Qing, Yongling's reign, during its 13 years, aside from members of the imperial family, the only official for whom Hongli came to mourn was Mawu. This, in itself, shows their unusual relationship. The following year, Yongling proclaimed that 16-year-old Fucha would become the principal wife, Di Fujin, of 17-year-old Hongli. This marriage was likely decided upon by Yongling and Mawu before Mawu's death, otherwise it would seem unusual for a prince to pay a visit to mourn a minister's death. This may reflect both Yongling's trust in the Fucha family and his recognition of Fucha's character. After entering the imperial palace, Fucha's life can be described as happy. She and Hongli had a strong, affectionate relationship, within just 3 years of marriage. She gave birth to a daughter and a son, and by the age of 19, their children were a complete pair. This shows the couple's happiness, affection, and harmony during that period. They were newlyweds in love, a couple full of affection and understanding. Fucha not only had a strong relationship with her husband, but also got along exceptionally well with her in-laws. The historical records say that she was kind, virtuous, and profoundly filial toward her mother-in-law, Empress Xia Shengxian, the noble consort Neohuru, Yongling's wife, without a single fault. In the palace, Fucha was practically the perfect daughter-in-law. The Yongling emperor was especially fond of this daughter-in-law. When Fucha gave birth to a son, Yongling personally chose his name, Yonglian. This name was rich in significance, symbolizing the ancestral shrine and the dynasty's future, reflecting high hopes for the child. Later, Qianlong, reflecting back, said that Yongzheng hoped Yongle would become a mainstay in securing the throne, a great honor for Fucha. Therefore, during the first few years in the palace, Fucha's life was nearly perfect, a loving marriage, children, a harmonious family, and affection from her in-laws. Fucha was likely busy every day taking care of her children, managing palace affairs, and occasionally chatting with Hongli, the future Qianlong, adding warmth and happiness to their routines. But life always brings its ups and downs, even for members of the imperial family. Fate cannot be avoided. In the 13th year of Yongzheng's reign, Yongzheng passed away, and Hongli ascended to the throne as the Qianlong emperor. That same year, Qianlong proclaimed Fucha as his empress. Although the formal coronation ceremony was delayed until the period of imperial mourning, 27 months, for Yongzheng had passed. At the end of Qianlong's second year, Qianlong held a grand coronation ceremony for Fucha, a momentous event, and posthumously raised her father, Fucha Lirongbo, to the highest hereditary rank of first-degree duke, a title normally reserved for members of the imperial family. At the ceremony, Qianlong lavishly praised Fucha's character, describing her as noble and pure, kind and gentle, practically without a single flaw. He used many flowery expressions to celebrate her, stating, "Her character is pure as a fine jade, her kindness permeates the inner palace, and her softness is a reflection of her strong moral discipline, a paragon of virtue." Fucha's affection for Qianlong was equally deep. She was a thoughtful and attentive wife, always looking for ways to bring happiness to her husband. Once, Qianlong was reading a document from the Kangxi era, which described the poor lifestyle of the Manchus before their entry into Beijing, when they used deer's tails instead of gold thread to decorate their garments. Qianlong casually mentioned this to Fucha, reflecting on the struggles of their ancestors. The following spring, Fucha personally embroidered a pouch adorned with deer's tail fur and presented it to Qianlong as a New Year's gift. Qianlong was deeply moved upon receiving it. Historical records say he prized it greatly. While it was a small item, it represented Fucha's kindness and care. She likely spent much time selecting the materials and designing its pattern, all to make Qianlong feel her sincere affection. Such details demonstrate that Fucha was not only a virtuous empress but also a thoughtful wife. On another occasion, Qianlong fell ill with a skin disease. The court physicians said that although the disease had healed, he needed 100 days of rest to make a full recovery. Empress Fucha, instead of staying in her own palace, moved into a small room just outside Qianlong's resting chamber and personally cared for him for 100 days until he recovered. Every day, Empress Fucha would change his dressings, serve him tea, bring him water, and even keep him company to ease his boredom. As the master of the inner palace, Empress Fucha's deep care for Qianlong shows her sincere affection. And Qianlong was willing to let Empress Fucha remain by his side during his most vulnerable moments, a testament to their deep bond, far greater than his relationships with his other concubines. After Qianlong ascended the throne, he immediately made their son, Yongle, the crown prince, and placed his name in a secretly concealed box behind a plaque in the Palace of Heavenly Purity. This not only represented high hopes for Yongle but also a sign of deep respect for Empress Fucha. It seemed that Empress Fucha's position in the palace was unshakable, and her life was smooth. But fate is ever-changing. In the 10th lunar month of Qianlong's third year, their 9-year-old son Yongle fell gravely ill and tragically passed away. This was a catastrophic blow for both Qianlong and Empress Fucha. Qianlong immediately suspended court for 5 days to ease his own sorrow and held a funeral for Yongle in keeping with the ceremonies due for a crown prince. He even constructed a grand tomb called Duanhui Crown Prince's Garden. At 27, Empress Fucha was left to mourn the death of her son. She cried every day, unable to ease her immense pain. She may have stayed up all night, thinking back to her son's smiling face, a feeling akin to having her heart cut by a knife. The tragedy caused her to become increasingly melancholy. even causing her to withdraw into silence, adding a deep thread of unhappiness to her expression. By Qianlong's 10th year, another concubine, Lady Gao, passed away and was posthumously honored with the title Huixian. When Empress Fucha heard this, she suddenly asked Qianlong, "When I pass away in the future, may I be given a posthumous title of Shaoxian?" This question made people's hearts heavy, reflecting her growing awareness of death and her own depression. Qianlong was surely pained by this, or he would not have made sure to record it in the historical annals. He may have held her hand in an attempt to console her, yet he was unable to ease his own worries. While the couple was still immersed in their sorrow, Empress Fucha became pregnant again and gave birth to their 7th son, Yongzong. Qianlong was overjoyed and named the child Yongzong, a name reflecting his hope that he would grow up to become a mainstay of the dynasty. For Empress Fucha, this might have rekindled her hope and made life feel a little less dark. But fate dealt another heavy blow. When Yongzong was just over a year old, he fell victim to smallpox and tragically died. This was a catastrophic shock. Empress Fucha fell completely ill and broke down. She may have been confined to her bed, thinking back to the 2 children's smiling faces, with tears constantly falling down her cheeks. The repeated tragedy pushed both her body and mind toward collapse. Before Yongzong's death, Qianlong had already decided to tour Shandong in the 13th year of his reign. After Yongzong's death, Empress Fucha fell into profound grief. She even had a dream in which Yongzong was taken away by Bixia Yuanjun, a deity of Mount Tai. Qianlong, although he did not believe in Taoism, having previously driven the Yongzheng-era priests out of Yuanminjiwan, decided to adjust his itinerary and accompany his wife to pay her respects to Bixia Yuanjun in order to ease her heart. He may have said to her, "I do not believe in these things, but I will do it for you." A simple sentence that reveals his deep affection for his wife. On the 4th day of the 2nd lunar month in Qianlong's 13th year, their tour began. 18 days later fell Empress Fucha's 37th birthday. Qianlong held a grand birthday celebration for her. And historical records say he bestowed a banquet upon princes, ministers, and officials, a lavish event. Empress Fucha may have forced a smile in order to ease her husband's worries, but her health was already fragile. No one expected that this would be her last birthday. On the 24th day of the 2nd lunar month, they arrived in Ciufu to pay their respects to Confucius. And on the 29th, Empress Fucha accompanied Qianlong up Mount Tai to worship Bixia Yuanjun. After descending the mountain, they continued their journey toward Jinan. Because their schedule was so tight, and Empress Fucha was already weak, she fell ill upon arriving in Jinan on the 3rd day of March. Emperor Qianlong immediately halted the procession and rested there for several days, a deviation from the plan. The Qianlong's daily record shows that he repeatedly visited the same place in Jinan, a clear sign that Empress Fucha's condition disrupted their plans. All members of the imperial entourage, including Qianlong's mother, his brother, and his uncle, were forced to wait, and the entire group fell out of their normal rhythm. Empress Fucha felt that she was a burden to everyone. On the 7th, she told Qianlong that her health had improved and encouraged him to continue their journey. The historical records state, with a mother's compassion, "She urged me to return to the capital," meaning that she was thinking about Qianlong's mother's well-being and insisted they move forward. She may have forced a smile to ease her husband's worries, but this kindness made her condition worsen. On March 8, the team boarded their boat and set out once more. But Empress Fucha's health had not truly recovered. Exposure to water and cold made her condition deteriorate further. She kept it to herself until dizziness and vomiting set in. And by then, even the imperial physicians were powerless. Finally, on the evening of March 11, at the age of 37, Empress Fucha passed away. Her death dealt a heavy blow to Qianlong. She was not only his wife from their earliest marriage, but also the perfect pure white moonlight in his heart. Qianlong, for the rest of his life, would speak of her with pure admiration, without a word of criticism. Empress Fucha was, in Qianlong's mind, a symbol of kindness, virtue, and careful consideration. To provide her with a perfect funeral, Qianlong made many extraordinary decisions. According to Qing Dynasty custom, only officials in Beijing needed to observe a period of mourning when the empress died. But Qianlong ordered all officials across the country to mourn for 27 days, prohibit marriage and entertainment, and prohibit cutting their hair for 100 days. Such a practice was unprecedented in Qing history. Qianlong even drew upon ceremonies from the Ming dynasty. He may have felt that honoring her in this way was the only way to show his deep respect. Qianlong also punished a large number of officials, more than 50 in total, including ministers from the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Rights, for failing to perform the ceremonies to his satisfaction. These penalties were not related to political affiliation. They were simply due to poor performance in organizing the funeral ceremonies. For example, Qianlong initially condemned Minister of Justice Acton to death for grave disrespect, but later inexplicably chose to spare him. Such erratic decisions show Qianlong's emotional distress and irrational state of mind at the time. Qianlong even personally involved himself in every step of the funeral. From the initial ceremonies to the anniversary rites, wherever tradition called for it, he was there in person. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, he chose to remain by Empress Fucha's coffin all night instead of honoring his ancestors elsewhere. He likely sat quietly before her, recalling their years together, with tears blurring his eyes. While Qianlong was not a particularly talented poet, his elegy for Empress Fucha was sincere and filled with deep feeling. He wrote, "20 years side by side, now gone with the flow of water. 2 lines of tears falling in the spring breeze. If I had foreseen this fate, I would wish we had no children, but more years together." This expression of affection makes it hard to believe it was for show. Qianlong must have filled his mind with memories of Empress Fucha, his words heavy with regret and yearning. There are 2 particularly moving details. First, Emperor Qianlong celebrated a birthday publicly for Empress Fucha, and after her death, he never held a birthday celebration for any other concubine. In his heart, she remained his one and only pure white moonlight. Second, because Empress Fucha passed away in Jinan, Qianlong avoided the city for the rest of his life, fearing it would bring back painful memories. Whenever he passed through Shandong, he must have been reminded of that time, a feeling akin to a knife piercing his heart. When Qianlong was 86 years old, after he had abdicated, he still brought the new Emperor Jiaqing to pay his respects at Empress Fucha's tomb. At that point, 48 years had passed, nearly half a century, yet Qianlong remained unable to forget her. He may have stood before her resting place, wondering what life might have been if she were still alive. Perhaps she would be the Empress Dowager, surrounded by children and grandchildren. In his later years, while tidying up his belongings in the palace, Qianlong came across a pouch that Empress Fucha had embroidered in her youth. He sighed, "Who made this relic a cause for sorrow? My tears flow endlessly at the sight." That pouch, a symbol of their youthful love, opened up a rush of memories for Qianlong, causing him to break down in tears. Such deep affection, crossing the barrier of time, is truly moving. Some historical scholars say that Empress Fucha's life, from a happy girl to a queen within the deep palace, then losing 2 children in a row, and ultimately dying at a young age, is profoundly sad. Her relationship with Qianlong went beyond the power struggles of the imperial court. It was a sincere expression of love. She may have worried about causing him trouble even in her last moments, urging him to take care of himself. And Qianlong, with a lifelong remembrance, proved just how much Empress Fucha meant to him. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.